What's going on, everyone? Doc here with Eyes Wide Shot Gaming, and today we are going to go over builds and build methods for Remnant 2. There are dozens of videos describing how to put together a specific build that is meta, but here we're going to go ahead and cover not just what build works for apocalyptic difficulty, we're going to learn how to make a build all our own that we can call home about. I've been keeping my ear to the ground and noticed that the top two build ideas revolve around health regeneration or damage mitigation. That's all fine and dandy, but let's dip our toes in creating our own. So what's my personal method of creating a build? I use the derivative method. I find a weapon, skill, or mod that I can completely revolve all other items around. We get 4 pieces of armor, 4 rings, 2 ranged weapons, a melee weapon, and an amulet. Not counting the mutator we can attach to each weapon, both melee and ranged as well as the 2 skills that are respective to the archetypes. That's it. With these tools we can create something that will stand out and you can show off in front of your friends, or use to help randoms beat that boss they're stuck on. Let's say for example we decide to use the Sagittarius bow, one of my personal favorite weapons. We understand the mechanics of how it works. Basic shot will go ahead and do basic damage. Charge shots increase said damage, and the built-in mod will create a starfall attack on a location, which unlike some mods, does not follow the enemy but is stationary. We have a choice of either revolving the build around the mod, or the bow's charge shot itself. I personally prefer the bow's charge shot itself, so I will take a gander into amulets first, and work my way around. I look for an amulet that will help in either charging the bow's shot, or increase the damage of the attack itself. In this case, I see that out of all the amulets I currently have, the Ankh of Power, which increases all damage by 15%, and using my relic, doubles that bonus, is my best choice in the matter. I follow suit with the rings, doing the exact same thing. I find a ring that helps my bow's charge shot, or damage. In this case, I've come up with the Stone of Balance, which increases all damage by 7%, Stone of Expanse, which increases range damage by 12%, but reduces all other damage by 6%, Vestige of Power that applies a damage increase of 10% to ranged and melee after not taking any damage for 7 seconds, and Burden of the Destroyer, a ring that decreases my weapon's ideal range, but increases all damage dealt by 15%. All 4 put together truly make the difference between just surviving a nightmare and thriving on apocalypse. We go back to our Sagittarius bow now, and see if there is a mutator that will complement what we have put together in our jewelry so far. The main thing to understand is that we're not trying to be balanced. We don't want an all-around character build, but one that focuses on a singular thing and does it very well. So the mutator we jump to is Supercharger, which increases charge speed for bows and fusion rifles by 30%, and at level 10, charged primary shots of bows and fusion rifles gain 15% crit chance. Neat. Now that we have put together the meat and potatoes of the build, we can take a peek at our secondary ranged weapon and melee weapon. I like to use a secondary that complements the primary. In this case, I want something with AoE, Area of Effect, or close range damage, so I opt for the Meridian, a heavy hitting launcher, along with the Bandit Mutator that helps my ammo count by granting a 30% chance to return ammo to my magazine, and at level 10, when said ammo is returned, it gains 10% fire rate for 3 seconds, a duration that can increase to 10 seconds by stacking. As far as the melee goes, in this scenario I move towards using a heavy hitting melee, preferably the Abyssal Hook, with the Edgelord Mutator helping us get a faster melee charge speed by 15% and attack speed by 10%, just in order to finish off that enemy that I might not have been able to with my primary or secondary. At this point, we get to the armor. This is where we decide if we want to take a hit and be comfortable with it, but be slow, or do we want to be as agile as a cat and run the risk of getting 2-tapped. For Apocalypse, I noticed that armor is not a deciding factor for surviving, so in that case, I opt for something low and run a combination of Academic Hat, Leto Mark II Armor, Academic Trousers, and Trainer Bracers, all equaling to a weight total of 64.9, which lets our dodge be normal and our armor total will rest easy at 224.7. That translates to 53% damage mitigation. Since we have covered the armor, weapons, amulet, and rings, we're going to see what heart we are going to be using, as well as which 3 relics to apply to said heart. Again, we are looking for anything that helps us either with the bow's damage or with the charge speed of our bow. So we decide ranged fire rate and range damage will be our two best assets, complemented by armor effectiveness that will increase our armor by 15% at max, letting us breathe easy when charging the bow shot in those clutching moments as a boss rushes you. Let's go over what we have so far. We have the armor set down in stone, the heart along with the relics, the weapons, and jewelry all put together. But something is missing. Many newcomers to Remnant might not appreciate the benefit that choosing the correct archetype will bring to their build. But that's okay. We look back over the 11 archetypes Remnant 2 has to offer, and see which, if any, cover what we see in our mind's eye with this build. I've opted in this case for my primary archetype to be Challenger, which not only let me pick myself up when I'm downed, but also lets me use the Rampage skill. That way I can further increase my fire rate by 15%, reload speed by 25%, and movement speed by 15% for 10 seconds. Not to mention that after a few kills and or dealing enough damage, the Rampage skill grants me Rage, which further increases range damage by 2.5% per stack, stacking up to 10 times. Great! Our secondary archetype is a no-brainer, Gunslinger archetype, with the Bullet Storm skill for even more of an increase to our fire rate by 20%, reload speed by 50%, and bows gain 15% crit chance and a 50% increase to projectile speed. We're starting to see how everything so far is synergizing together perfectly. Now, for the cherry on top, the traits. The traits is where we can really diversify the build intensity. We can go ahead and invest up to 10 trait points into defense or speed, but if we want to stay true to what we foresee out of this build, our main priority should be to invest into any trait that will benefit the damage that our bow will output. So I've decided the main traits I put points into will be Spirit, Longshot, and Expertise. These three will be a big factor in the damage our bow can commit to. The rest are up to your own discretion. Here are my choices of trait input: Fortify, Longshot, Spirit, Expertise, Revivalist, Bark Skin, Shade Skin, Siphoner, and the remaining 5 trait points into Regrowth. That way, we can comfortably know if we need to take a breath during a boss fight, our traits will back us up. And just like that, we are done. We can apply this mentality to any other weapon, may it be melee or ranged, as well as mods or skills. At the end of the day, we have put together a build all our own that we can be proud of. We can use this method to make any build we want for endgame. Granted, some might not be as viable as others, but at least we could say that this is something we put together ourselves, instead of being a sheep and carbon copying something we found online that is meta and used by every other player. Remember, at some point we will all play this one last time. We will turn this game off and never come back, but we will remember the elitist bums that gave us a hard time for not copying a build off of YouTube. Have fun with this. Make and or discover something great. Be proud of your product and use it to help others. Do good. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And until next time, so long.